Let's model a spoon. All right, so for this project, you're going to be using the form edit tool space to create some basic kitchen utensils. What you come up with, whatever, but the essential thing is just kind of utensils like forks, spoons, sporks, knives, spatulas, whatever have you. So let's jump over to Fusion. And what I mean by this is exactly that. It's a spoon. It is pretty straightforward, a spoon. Only this has been created using the form tools instead of anything like we've been using before. Now, this one, I did start with a canvas. So hide the bodies, a spoon shape. So there you go. Just using the form tools here. Now, this is actually two different ones, or at least it begins as one. This is just two different examples on this example. So let's start a new one here. All right, save, example, new spoon. All right, so if you want, you can certainly start with the canvas image. So I'm just gonna check, hopefully I still have spoon. I do not. All right, we'll wing it. Obviously, if you have something, you can use a canvas image. In this case, I apparently do not. So whatever, you know what a spoon looks like. But we're going to be using the form environment. So let's create a form. Apparently, I already had one of the XY plane selected, so that's okay. Now, the reason we're using form is because we're making something much more organic. But you don't have to start from scratch. Use a couple of different shapes and build from there. Modify these. I'm going to make the spoon out of a sphere and a plane and join the two together. So first, make a sphere. And yep, XY plane. Now, I highly recommend, in fact, I will tell you, do this. Create your shapes along a major axis. It can either be X or it can be the Y, but do so along a major axis so it's easier to align things. I'm going to start there, and I'm just going to drag it out. Now, because I'm just kind of winging it, how big is a spoon? The bowl on it? Let's say it's about, we'll make a big soup spoon, something kind of that. So that's about 60 millimeters. So we'll start there. Now, like I said, keep this simple. You can add more faces, but in this case, I don't really need that. If you want more like latitude, fine, but honestly, I would shrink it back down. 6 at most, same with longitude, 6 at most. You can always add complexity later. Now, symmetry, in this case, you can very much do this right now. Go to from none, mirror, you're going to select either some faces like you would applying symmetry, but in this case, you have to do it just by checkbox. So apply your symmetry along that axis. So it's not length, it's not width, it's not height. So it's not letting me select them properly. So that's okay. So don't use that selection box. Go to none and we'll fix it. Select or hit OK. Now I want to align symmetry. Let me just go to the top view along this green axis, the Y axis. The problem is my sphere is not aligned to that. So first what I should do is rotate my sphere. So hit M or move, select my sphere, and I'm just going to rotate this until one of these axes lines up with the Y axis there. Makes everything so much easier. Hit OK. Now I can go to symmetry, just mirror symmetry, internal. So I can select a face here and here, and it's going to create symmetry, that green line, along the green line axis. See how things are lining up. That's exactly why. Make this easier on yourselves. Hit OK. All right. Now I'm going to make the bowl here. First thing, go to modify, sure, but I'm making a bowl. Well, a bowl isn't a sphere, so I'm going to get rid of half of this. Select my faces, just the top half, everything above that edge. Hit delete. Chops it apart. Now, this is only a surface now, meaning, unlike all the other stuff, they've been solids. It's like a three-dimensional shape. But it has like actual dimension to it. So it has like height, width, but also thickness. Right now, this is kind of like a paper bowl or a paper sheet. Yes, it has an inside and outside, and it has these edges, these vertices, all that. but there's no thickness to it. That's okay. We're going to add that later. Now, what I want to do is move this around so it's not quite like a deep dish bowl. So I'm going to use my edit form. And I'm just going to use by vertices. You can use by edges or vertices. Don't want to use faces here because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that deep bowl, squish it a little bit. But we played around with a little bit with soft modification, so I'm going to use that. We'll go by distance. And as I select all of these, you can see the red line affects like everything. So as I drag those up, it's moving all the things. So I can't use it that far. Let me Control Z that. It's not letting me move it back. So fine. Hit cancel. I mean, obviously you can just hit 0 there. But all right. So go back to soft modification. Clearly I need to shrink it. So let's just select like just the bottom ones. See the effective range of the red line? Might even need to shrink that more. So let's say like 20. See what that does. See how much shorter that red line diffuses to white? That's better. So now as I squish this up, see how much more that doesn't affect everything else. Now I want to add that next line. Kind of drags it up a little more. There we go. See the top line staying put, but I'm kind of shrinking this, but it's not so harsh of a movement. Cool. All right. That actually doesn't look bad at all. Now this is the right. Now I can make movements, meaning like, you know what? Let's make this kind of a little bit more spoon shape rather than bowl shape. Let's select like the front half of vertices. See how that it's just red here and goes quickly to white and then back to black. Now I can drag these and it's only moving the front half of those. So it's kind of got like a little bit of an offset half circle here. Shrink this a little bit more. Because this is a pretty significant spoon here. Oops. Accidentally missed the arrow. Okay, there we go. Hit OK. Now that did accidentally move everything slightly above the z-axis. That's not really a problem. Or sorry, above this the y-axis. Not really a problem. Just be aware of it. If you need to, select all the things, move it back down a little bit. It really would have been best had that stayed right there. Now, as I pop up and down, it's because this is moving in 1 millimeter increments. 1 is too much. 0 is too much above. So let's try 0.5. That's pretty darn close to the line. You don't have to be exactly on the line. It just helps. Okay. That's kind of sort of a bowl. That's a pretty wide spoon, but that's okay. Like I said, we're going to kind of make this a bit of a soup spoon. All right. Now, how long is a regular spoon? I've got a ruler next to me here. So let's say, you know what, it's a soup spoon. Let's make it a big soup spoon. Let's make that about, it looks like 18 millimeter or 180 millimeters. Okay. So what I'm going to do to create the handle, technically I could actually drag this straight out, but I want to show you how to use a couple of tools. I'm going to use a plane. So this is just a flat plane, X and Y, that's it with faces in between. Select my plane. Now again, I want to select along that green axis, along the shared axis, in this case, the Y axis. And you see it draws outward. It is a center point rectangle. Fine. We can make this as wide as thin or as long as we want. Let's just get it close. So 18 millimeters wide. I don't know. Let's make it 20 just for grins. Okay. Tab over. If you want to do this numerically, you can, I don't know. Sure. 180. Yeah, that looks about right. Hit OK. But if I hit OK, it's not going to let me select the amount of faces. Or sorry, if I hit enter, I do want it to finish. So I just clicked my left click and it locked in my selection, but I want to add some faces. Now in this case, you do want to go ahead, or you can add symmetry more easily here. Mirror, it's just across those two faces. So that makes it easy. But let's add some more down the length because I want a little bit more features. See, went from length, side to side. That should be width, but just the way we dimensionally added that. So sometimes I really don't like that it has length and width built in there, it kind of gets a little frustrating it gets confusing, but there we are. I got a few down the line. We can make it more simple if you want. Let's just go to 4. There we go. A little more simple. 2, left and right. That's it. Great. Symmetry, length. So green line, green line, green line. Everything straight down the green line. Makes it easier. Hit OK. All righty. I'm going to save this here just so. Got it. Bowl and handle. All right. So let's manipulate these. So again, edit form. That's going to be our main friend here. You can see how many vertices it adds. This is just because it's showing like a corner here. Now, we do not need these two sides to actually meet. We're going to use a different tool to bridge them together called the bridge tool. Yeah, no, it's very clever. But let's add some shape to this. So let's say across here, I want to use the scale tool to either shrink or widen this. All right, let's kind of add a little bit down the neck. All right, maybe the back side. Let's add to it. So bigger spoon. Okay, great. I can just grab one point, and instead of use a scale, I can say like, I can play with the pan tool, move it around on that vertex. There you go. Well, curious, what happens if you delete that vertex? You can't do it until you finish edit form. But just want to show you what happens. Select that vertex, delete, and it just rounds everything out because I just took the corner out of two sides. So it just joins those two together. So just so you know, if you're trying to make a more rounded shape, delete the corner. That's kind of spoony, you know? Not bad. That's really all we're looking for. It's kind of a spoon. Okay. Now, if I go to the right view, it's very flat. That's all right. If you want, you can absolutely use the edit form to select, let's say, one of those, just at that neck point. Let's go upwards this time. And maybe this one, go up a little bit too. And let's do the final point down a little bit. So now, just got a bit more curve to the spoon. That's all. If you want, you could most certainly bring these up a little bit closer. We don't need to make them connect, but closer is good. Okay, that's kind of a beefy spoon, but that works. Pardon. Next tool, modify and bridge. It literally just creates a bridge, creates segments between two opposing faces within a body. But what we're going to use that as is it's bridging along edges, which is really funny. It says it's along faces, but it's along edges. So everything is mirrored left and right. So select one side of the bridge. So one side, and select side 2, same. All right. Select 1. Select 2. Let's make sure to preview this. Now, the problem is, see, it's going to show us in this kind of like drawn down section. If it's not showing it correctly, double click the faces, or rather, you should make sure to select both of the appropriate faces. There we go. So both of these. Now go to side 2, select both of these. It deselected the first one. There we are. So it's hard to see because of the automatic color. Let me shift that. So shift and in. Now you can see that a little bit more clearly. The yellow on both selected, yellow on both selected. Now, it's saying it wants to add 3 faces. I don't want that. Let's dial that back to 1. Keep it simple. There we go. Now, the weird thing is it's not showing it completely, so let's see what happens. Hit OK. It merged them together. There you go. That's really it. Now, that's a pretty rough connection there, so if you want to make some adjustments, that's fine. So, like, edit form, grab just that vertex, and let's drag that down a little bit. Now, it doesn't look like it moved, but what it's doing is anytime you make an adjustment, go back to edit form, it's kind of showing with you where things were. When I hit OK, it'll move it to where it is now. It's all right. let's Control Z because I wanted to use the soft modification. So now when I do the same, you see the red line comes up. There we go. And I'm just making some minor changes, that's all. But now because these are bridged, look how it changes the handle as well. Hard to see a little bit, but there you go. All right. Save. Bridge. Handle. Okay. Last step is, oh, not symmetry, sorry, is thicken. This is only one surface thick. So select the whole thing. Let's add some dimensions. Let's make it 2 millimeters thick. Now, what it's showing you is just a version of it. It is the display mode version. That's all. It's just showing it more square, so you can see things a little more clearly. Now you have some options here. It says thicken type sharp. That means it's going to have a sharp edge. It's kind of like extrude. Or go to soft edge, and it's going to have a more rounded edge. No edges, something else for another time. Direction, normal. Yeah, leave it at that. Hit OK. Made it thicker. And it gave it a rounded edge. There you go. Now, if you decide if you wanted to make that thicker, like, you know what, 2 millimeters isn't that big, and I should have made it 3. Unfortunately, you cannot go back in history on this, but you can Control Z and repeat the operation. So Control Z, apply thicken again. This time, let's say it should be 3 millimeters, soft edge, hit OK. It's a little thicker. You're gonna. That's definitely the spoon that all our moms used to hit us with. Handle needs to be longer. But that's pretty much it. You can modify this some more. Like, let's say, let's go by faces or edges rather. And like here on the back side, I can select all the back here and scale it up from there, make it a thicker spoon. So really get the whacking handle with it. Or again, if you wanted to make it longer, select all those and let's just drag it out longer. So you can still manipulate it. But that's pretty much it. You're just making, like, starting with like a shape, modify it, add a handle. You can use the bridge tool to put them together. And then obviously when we hit finish form, that works. Bring on an appearance. And hey, why not? Let's make it metal. Heck yeah. Polished gold spoon that we're definitely going to get hit by. So there you go. So it's a really simple project. When we get back, I will show you how to like do modifications and such to this. But for something to play with, simple spoon. Save. Gold. All right. That's a utensil using the formatted space.